No one could have ever imagined a case like this one. Those words from a federal judge describe the plight of Christopher Ahn, an American citizen who's managed to get himself entangled in a web of intrigue involving the United States, Spain, and North Korea. Tonight, you'll hear about fake kidnappings, political assassinations, and dramatic rescues. And you'll get a unique insight into North Korea, the world's most isolated country. As we first told you in May, there are almost as many questions as there are answers about this strange story. But one thing seems clear. Christopher Ahn is an endangered man.
This whole place is called
We met Christopher Ahn in Southern California, where the 43-year-old son of Korean immigrants was born and raised. Ahn joined the Marines at 19 and served in Fallujah. When he returned from Iraq, he got his MBA from the University of Virginia and co-founded a consulting business. But 7 years ago, the self-described do-gooder picked up an unusual hobby, helping North Korean diplomats defect.
I don't think that I could morally look at myself in the mirror if I turned away from someone who was desperately asking for help.
How many North Koreans did you help defect?
I always tried to lean on caution and not really talk about.
But is it a handful, dozens? Give us a sense of what we're talking about. Or was this, one or two and I'm out?
It's more than one or two, and it's less than dozens.
Ahn says he did it with a secretive makeshift group of activists who call themselves Chilima Civil Defense. They claim to have helped high-profile North Koreans defect.
There were whispers within the North Korean diplomatic community about this strange organization that was out there doing this.
Was it a loosely formed group of people?
It was.
And how big are we talking about?
I don't even actually know the number.
Chilima's grand mission was to overthrow the North Korean dictatorship, one of the most repressive regimes in the world. The underground group was led by this man, Adrian Hong, a Korean Mexican who held a U.S. green card. A Yale dropout, Hong became a human rights activist. Adrian Hong has said he considered himself a freedom fighter who's conducting a revolution. Did you view yourself as a freedom fighter?
No. I obviously Adrian has his motivations to doing what he wants to do, but my motivation was just simply to bring some hope to people who were hopeless.
In the fall of 2018, Christopher Ahn was in Italy when a Chilima team reportedly arranged for North Korea's acting ambassador and his wife to walk out of their embassy in Rome, jump into a waiting car, and speed away to freedom. In February of 2019, Christopher Ahn flew to Spain for another secret operation. Ahn says when he landed, he didn't know the details, but suspected it had something to do with the North Korean embassy in Madrid. He went straight to this safe house, where he learned about the ambitious plan. Chilima was going to help the entire North Korean embassy, an estimated 10 people, defect. How was the mission explained to you?
What I was told was that everyone in the embassy wanted to defect, but were afraid to. And so our main point of contact in the embassy had asked us to stage a kidnapping so that there would be some type of plausible reason that all of a sudden everyone in the embassy disappeared, because the penalty for defecting is death, but not just for the defector. It's death for everyone the defector knows, interacts with.
If you can make them look like victims, then their families in North Korea, their friends, are not in jeopardy.
Correct.
At any point, did you think, this sounds a little bizarre, like this sounds crazy what we're doing here? Or did you think it's a good idea?
Of course it sounds crazy, but what the North Korean people go through is crazy.
Chilima's mission in Madrid would be its biggest yet, essentially to take over the North Korean embassy and fake a mass kidnapping. On February 22nd, around 4:30, Chalima leader Adrian Hong, posing as a businessman, went to the front door.
He rings the doorbell, and he's let in. And what I was told was that the door would be left open for us. And the plan was that when we received a signal for us to walk into the embassy and then begin the staged kidnapping.
Moments later, screen grabs from security cameras show other members of the Chalima team, including Christopher An, walking through the front door of the North Korean embassy. Where was their security? Aren't there a version of Marines posted outside? There was no security outside the embassy.
There was no security. When you traditionally think of an embassy, you think of reinforced doors and guards and all this kinds of people. Their embassy is not that kind of an embassy. It's a house with a driveway and a door that leads into their little compound.
Are you carrying a weapon or members of the group?
I was never carrying a weapon, but yes, there were weapons there, fake guns. So, and who would bring fake guns into a kidnapping, right?
Fake guns for what he says was a fake kidnapping. Aware they were likely under surveillance, An says embassy staff members were tied up and herded into a room where he quietly addressed them.
We've answered your call and we're here to help you defect.
And how did they react to that?
It was disbelief. It was excitement. Someone said, is this really happening? And that to me confirmed what I was told earlier that day, that everyone inside wanted to defect.
Describe what you saw when you went inside the embassy. What did it look like?
There was almost no furniture. It was bare. The walls were bare, except a few propaganda kind of posters. And so the whole place was very echoey. And I opened up the refrigerator and there was nothing in there. And immediately I thought to myself, these are the elites. These are the cream of the crop of North Korea. And they have nothing to eat in there.
1 hour into the operation, An says the Chalima team was on the verge of leaving the embassy with the North Koreans when everything changed.
There's a ring at the door, and everyone's very surprised by this. And I see that it's the Spanish police. And that's shocking. What are they doing here? I go back into the room with everybody, and they ask me quietly, who is at the door? Why is the doorbell ringing? So I said, the police are at the door. And then you see the color on everyone's face just turn to lily white. And they would whisper to me, very terrified, and say that they know.
As the police waited for someone to answer, Chalima leader Adrian Hong put on a North Korean lapel pin to look like a diplomat, then opened the front door. The police informed Hong that a bloodied North Korean woman had frantically told them there was a problem inside the embassy. Hong replied nothing was wrong and shut the door.
I believe that was when we realized that not everyone was accounted for.
Who was missing?
It was the wife of one of the members of the embassy staff.
The wife had jumped off an embassy balcony in the early minutes of the incursion. Despite an injured leg, she dragged herself onto the street where she was discovered by an alarmed Spanish motorist.
After the police left, the phone all of a sudden started ringing and ringing. It would ring, wait about 5-10 seconds, and ring again for hours. And in that echoey house where the phone ringing is just echoing everywhere, I don't care how courageous you think you are, that is scary. And so it is totally and completely understandable why they would be afraid.
That they'd been caught.
Yes.
No one knew who was calling, but the fear was the North Korean government was now aware something was amiss inside its Madrid embassy. The acting ambassador, So Yun-suk, Chalima's main point of contact for the alleged mass defection, was inside the embassy and seemed spooked.
Adrian said the main point of contact believes that this mission has been compromised and that he's too afraid to go. And so we need to get out of there. Our main point of contact there gives members of the group keys to the embassy vehicles.
Just after 9 p.m., 4.5 hours after it entered the embassy, the Chilima team fled in the embassy vehicles. They ditched them all over Madrid. No one was caught. Christopher Ahn hailed a cab and went to Portugal and eventually back to the United States. Left behind at the embassy, knives, handcuffs, fake guns, and the shaken staff. And now, the North Korean acting ambassador, who supposedly asked for help defecting, told Spanish police the entire embassy staff had been held against their will and beaten. At any point, did you see anyone harm any members of the North Korean
never.
embassy?
I mean, it's the exact opposite. I was a little concerned that it didn't look real enough because they're trying so hard to make sure that nobody got hurt.
The Spanish authorities say it was a kidnapping. What do you say?
Well, it means we did our job. We made it look real, and that was the point. We wanted it to make it look real as possible because we had to. We had no other choice.
The Chilima team took and later posted video of one of its members, not Christopher Ahn, smashing the photos of North Korean leaders inside the embassy. That raised more questions, as did the timing of the raid. It happened 5 days before then-President Trump met for a second time with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un in Hanoi, a meeting some human rights activists feared would empower the North Korean regime. Was the intention of the operation to provoke Kim Jong-un?
I didn't even know that that was happening.
Come on.
Again,
Everybody knew that was happening.
I mean, if you are a North Korea watcher or an
You
academic,
are a North Korea watcher.
I am not. I'm just a guy from LA, you know.
It seems like you would be aware of that this was in your orbit, that you cared what was going on. You're a smart guy. The whole world is talking about these two leaders meeting. You didn't know that was going to happen?
So maybe I did, but none of what I am doing is motivated by anything political or anything bigger than the fact that I was asked to help these defectors defect.
Back in the U.S., Adrian Hong turned over computers and other digital data Chilima took from the North Korean embassy to the FBI. Christopher Ahn says he also met with FBI agents at his apartment in L.A.
We had a really friendly conversation. They asked me about my involvement, what happened. I tried to be as truthful as I could. You know, we ended the meeting with me asking, like, hey, is everything good? Should I be concerned with anything? And their response was, oh, no, not at all. From our perspective, you were furthering American interests.
So you thought, I'm good.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Well, about 2-3 weeks after that or so, one of the FBI agents called me and said that North Korea had discovered my identity and that I needed to be vigilant and that the only place in this world that I am safe is here in the United States.
The FBI has told you what about the threat?
The FBI has told me that my life is in danger, that the North Korean government is now and will be targeting me for assassination.
When we come back, Christopher Ahn reveals his role in another secret operation after North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's half-brother was assassinated in a crowded international airport in Malaysia. Christopher Ahn maintains when he and a group of human rights activists from Chilima Civil Defense entered the North Korean embassy in Madrid in 2019, it was all theater, part of a botched fake kidnapping to help the North Korean embassy staff who wanted to defect. In the aftermath of the incursion, the FBI warned Ahn and Chilima's leader, Adrian Hong, that their lives were in danger.
I was going into this apartment.
2 months after the raid in Madrid, Christopher Ahn says he was carrying a gun for protection when he came here to Adrian Hong's LA apartment to drop off security cameras. He was stunned to find U.S. Marshals inside.
I open the door and I walk in, and the marshals are in there. And I surprised them, they surprised me. You know, they put a gun to my head and said, like, don't move or I'll blow your brains out.
Ahn says he was handcuffed and taken to jail for his role in the raid of the North Korean embassy in Madrid. When you're in jail, are you thinking, this is a big misunderstanding and surely I'll be out any day? Or did you think, this doesn't look good?
I thought I'd get bailed, right? Immediately. I don't have a criminal record. I don't think I even had a parking ticket in the last 15 years.
Christopher Ahn spent 87 days behind bars in the Los Angeles Metropolitan Detention Center. Spain had issued international arrest warrants for him and 7 other Chilema activists, charging them with breaking and entering, illegal restraint, and causing injuries. Spain has said it's a criminal organization. Was it a criminal organization in your mind?
I mean, unless it's a crime to care and it's a crime to help people.
I get wanting to help people, but why not let, the CIA, let the professionals do this?
I think it's because all those professionals haven't done this. What is a diplomat supposed to do? Who are they supposed to go to if they want to escape? Are they supposed to go to the embassy of their sworn enemy? They have lived their entire lives knowing that they're being watched 24/7. And we're the only ones in the world that they trust.
U.S. Marshals published a wanted poster for Chilema leader Adrian Hong, calling him armed and dangerous. He went underground and remains a fugitive today. Christopher Ahn is now out on bail, but he's been ordered to wear an ankle monitor. His legal saga is far from over. Spain wants him to stand trial in Madrid. There is an extradition treaty between the United States and Spain. And for 5 years, the U.S. Department of Justice has argued that federal courts are obligated to sign off on sending Christopher Ahn to Spain. This is what the U.S. attorney has said about the case. He said countries have an obligation to protect diplomats. That's how it works. And for Spain, it is a black eye to have a group come in and commit what they are charging as crimes. Is that a fair point? Does Spain have a duty to protect foreign embassies on its soil?
Of course they do. Spain needs to make sure that other countries and their embassies feel safe. The United States needs to make sure that their allies know that they honor their treaties and their agreements. But North Korea is not a normal country.
It's a terrorist state.
Sung-Yoon Lee is a fellow at the Wilson Center, a Washington-based think tank. An expert on North Korea, he testified at Christopher Ahn's federal court hearing that if Ahn is extradited to Spain, he would be vulnerable to North Korean assassins. You think they will go after Christopher Ahn?
Absolutely.
In Spain?
Well, Spain is an advanced country, but North Korea is brazen enough to commit crimes like kidnapping and murder in several European countries. Christopher Ahn is, I'm afraid, a very high priority target for the Kim regime. And the reason is because the so-called raid on the North Korean embassy in Madrid was unprecedented. Moreover, Christopher Ahn is the person, we learned later, who challenged the unchallengeable, infallible, inviolable North Korean leader twice.
Twice. Because in a crazy twist to a crazy story, Christopher Ahn had been involved in another rescue that outraged North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un 2 years before the Madrid raid. February 2017, the Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia. Those are 2 suspected North Korean agents lurking in the departure hall, and that is Kim Jong-nam, the half-brother and critic of North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. He enters the hall to catch a flight around 9 a.m. In this blurry video, Kim Jong-nam is accosted by 2 women who smear him in the eyes with VX nerve agent, a banned chemical weapon. Within 30 minutes, he is dead.
This assassination occurs, and it's a shock to everyone.
including the 21-year-old son of Kim Jong-nam, who was living in China. Christopher Ahn says Kim Han-sol, who was viewed as a potential heir and threat to the North Korean throne, was terrified.
He got a call from North Korea that there were people coming to execute him or assassinate him, and that when he looked out the window, that all of his security disappeared, and he didn't know who to turn to for help.
He turned to Adrian Hong, the head of Cholima, for help. Hong then turned to Christopher Ahn, the former Marine, to pull off the rescue.
He says, can you fly to Taiwan and meet him there and keep him safe while, we're talk to different countries and try to figure out a place where he could, apply for asylum. I jumped on a plane, the last flight out, and arrived in Taipei.
How did he know to look for you?
I told Adrian that tell him to look for a guy with a black T-shirt, a Dodger hat, and I'll be going by the name Steve. And so when his flight arrived, I was standing by the gate, and I saw someone walking toward me. We locked eyes, and he asked me, "Are you Steve?" And I said, "Yes. Don't worry, I got you."
At that point, people may want to kill him.
Sure.
Were you nervous?
I think it would be really weird if I wasn't nervous.
Christopher Ahn says he hid Kim Han-sol, the scared nephew of the North Korean dictator, in a private room at the airport for 36 hours until a safe haven could be found for him.
These two people show up, and they said that they were from the CIA. They want to talk to Han-sol.
But they know it's Han-sol that's in there.
Correct. So until I got confirmation that they were actually from the CIA, I tried to keep some distance between the two. Soon after, Adrian confirmed that they were from the CIA. And so after that, I felt relieved.
He says Adrian Hong then instructed him to buy a plane ticket for Kim Han-sol to Amsterdam. You're booking tickets for him at this point?
Yeah.
The CIA's not doing that?
No.
Did that strike you as strange?
This whole thing is strange.
Before Kim Han-sol departed, Christopher Ahn asked him if he would record a video.
And so I kind of told him, hey, I know this is kind of weird, but do you mind just acknowledging that we're here to help you? And he says, okay. And so in that little hotel room, I pulled out my cracked screen iPhone 6 and took the video.
We're very grateful to Adrian for his help, Adrian and his team for his help, and we hope this gets better soon. Yeah.
The video was seen around the world, but Kim Han-sol hasn't been seen since. Ahn says a CIA officer escorted Kim Han-sol onto the flight, but he never showed up in the Amsterdam arrivals hall. It's believed he was whisked away to a life in protective custody.
When you have been associated with helping someone who was once considered potentially the heir apparent of North Korea disappear and find safety, you're not just a target, you're top 5 target.
Nayeon Rim is Christopher Ahn's attorney. She says the FBI has also told her Ahn may be killed if he leaves the United States. Who in the U.S. can stop the extradition to Spain?
Anthony Blinken can stop it. Ultimately, President Joe Biden can stop it. In other administrations, the Secretary of State and the President can stop this.
But historically, they haven't.
There are almost no instances where the State Department has stepped in and stopped an extradition. But there are also no cases where the extradition request is actually being driven by North Korea, a country that the United States does not have diplomatic ties with for a reason.
60 Minutes requested interviews with the State Department, the Justice Department, and the FBI to discuss Christopher Ahn's potential extradition to Spain. All declined to be interviewed. We also reached out to Spanish officials. They also declined to speak to us. But last year, while filming outside the North Korean embassy in Madrid, we unexpectedly were confronted by the man who was Cholima's main point of contact for the alleged fake kidnapping. So Yun-suk.
No. Excuse me.
We wanted to interview him. He wanted us arrested. Neither side got its wish. Last year, the North Korean government released a statement blasting the United States over the embassy incident and singled out one person by name, Christopher An. The North Koreans called him a felon who deserves severe punishment from every aspect.
North Korea has a history. The assassination that they did in Malaysia wasn't their first one. And they had been publicly embarrassed with what happened in Spain. They had been publicly embarrassed with me helping rescue Han Sol. And when they are embarrassed, they respond fiercely. So why wouldn't I believe the FBI when they tell me that North Korea is trying to kill me?
On September 17th, after Israel and the terrorist organization Hezbollah had been in an escalating war for nearly a year, the Israeli spy agency Mossad launched one of the most daring and sophisticated deceptions in the history of counterintelligence, the pager plot, a modern take on the Trojan horse. Mossad created a bomb in a pocket and tricked Hezbollah fighters into unwittingly wearing these devices on their bodies. The repercussions of the plot have been dramatic, including aiding in the fall of the Assad regime in Syria, the weakening of Iran, and the decimating of the target of the plot, Hezbollah. As we first reported in December, less than 4 months after the operation, we spoke with 2 recently retired senior Mossad agents who were among those who ran it. To hide their identities, we agreed they could wear a mask and have their voices altered. We started with Michael, not his real name.
You were something called a case officer. What exactly is a case officer?
A case officer spearheads the operation. He's the commander of the operation.
The operation started 10 years ago, not with pagers, but with weaponizing walkie-talkies.
A walkie-talkie was a weapon, just like a bullet or a missile or a mortar.
So a walkie-talkie bomb.
A walkie-talkie bomb. Inside the battery, there is an explosive device.
And that was the invention, to put an explosive device that couldn't be detected into the battery.
Correct. Made in Israel.
At Mossad?
Yes.
As I understand it, these walkie-talkies went into a tactical vest that a soldier would put on, and then this would go in the pocket.
Correct.
Near the heart.
Yes.
So Israel sold this device to Hezbollah. Hezbollah paid for this weapon that was to be used against them.
They got a good price.
A good price that couldn't be too low or they'd be suspicious. In the end, Hezbollah bought over 16,000 of these exploding walkie-talkies that Israel didn't activate for 10 years until the September operation.
How did you convince Hezbollah to buy this?
Well, obviously, they didn't know that they were buying it from Israel.
Who did they buy it from, or think they were buying it from?
We have an incredible array of possibilities of creating foreign companies that have no way being traced back to Israel, shell companies over shell companies who affect the supply chain to our favor. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
This is Mossad's old office. Its motto from Proverbs 24:6 says in so many words, wage war through deception and trickery, kind of like the CIA's smoke and mirrors, which is what this operation was all about, starting with those walkie-talkies. But walkie-talkies are only worn in battle. So Mossad began developing a new device that Hezbollah fighters would have in their pockets all the time, a pager.
A pager is almost obsolete around the world, but Hezbollah still using it.
This is Gabriel, not his real name or voice. In 2022, he and his team started developing the second phase of the operation, the booby-trapped pagers. He found out that Hezbollah was buying pagers from this company in Taiwan called Gold Apollo. This is the pager that Hezbollah was using. So it's very sleek, it's very shiny, and it certainly can fit in a pocket. So what did you do to change this, to make it into a bomb?
So to make it into a bomb, we have to enlarge it a little bit.
In order to put explosives inside, but not too much. Using dummies, Mossad conducted tests with the pager in a padded glove to calibrate the grams of explosive needed to be just enough to hurt the fighter, but not the person next to him.
If we push the button, the only one that will get injured is the terrorist himself. Even if his wife or his daughter will be just next to him, he's the only one that's going to be harmed.
Did you test for that?
Yes, we test everything triple, double, multiple times in order to make sure there's minimum damage.
Could you use it as a tracking device? Did it have intelligence capability?
Oh no, this is a very stupid device by nature. This is the reason they're using it. There's almost no way how to tap it. It's only receiving messages and several grams of explosive.
Mossad also tested these ringtones to find a sound urgent enough to compel someone to take it out of their pocket. And they tested how long it takes a person to answer a pager, on average 7 seconds. But how to convince Hezbollah to switch to this bulkier pager?
I remember the day that I came to our director, put it on the table, and he was furious. He was telling us, there is no chance that anyone will buy such a big device. It's not comfortable in their pockets. It's heavy.
Very heavy.
Very heavy. It's no good.
Yeah.
Go back and bring me something else. It took me 2 weeks to convince him that although it's ugly, it has character. Character
meaning added features, which they touted in fake ads on YouTube. Robust, dustproof, waterproof, long battery life.
We make advertising movies and brochures, and we put it on internet, and it became the best product in the beeper area in the world.
Did people other than Hezbollah want to buy this based on what was being said about it online?
Yes, we received several requests from regular potential customers. Obviously, we didn't send to anyone. We just quote them with expensive price.
Mossad wanted to use the name Gold Apollo on its pager, so it set up shell companies, including one in this building in Hungary, to dupe the Taiwanese into partnering with them. So the company in Taiwan, Gold Apollo, did they know that they were working with people from Mossad?
Gold Apollo had zero clue that they are working with the Mossad.
And neither did Hezbollah.
When they are buying from us, they have zero clue that they are buying from the Mossad. We make like Truman Show. Everything is controlled by us behind the scene. In their experience, everything is normal. Everything was 100% kosher, including businessmen, marketing, engineers, showroom, everything.
To further the plot, Mossad hired the Gold Apollo saleswoman Hezbollah was used to working with before. She offered them the first batch of pagers as an upgrade free of charge. By September 2024, Hezbollah had 5,000 pagers in their pockets. The question for Israel, when to activate the sleeping bombs. There were hints Hezbollah might be getting suspicious of the devices, so Mossad head Dadi Barnea gave the go-ahead, triggering the attack and shocking people around the world as it seemed more like a spy movie than reality. On September 17th at 3:30 p.m., pagers started beeping all over Lebanon. As I understand it, people with this pager got a message that said, you have an encrypted message. In order to access it, you have to push the 2 buttons, meaning that it would explode in their hands.
That was the whole point.
So if someone did not push the 2 buttons, what happened?
It's the same effect. It's going to explode anyway.
The explosive was triggered in Israel.
Yes.
What ensued was mayhem. People with pagers blowing up on the street, on motorcycles, hospitals filling up with the wounded, limbs, fingers torn off, bloodied, blinded, holes in stomachs. For the most part, the explosions worked as planned, they say. Watch the man on the left. Those right next to him were unscathed. The very next day, Mossad finally activated the walkie-talkies that had been dormant for 10 years, some going off at the funerals of those killed by the pagers. All in all, about 30 people died, including 2 children. Around 3,000 were injured.
The aim, it wasn't killing Hezbollah terrorist. If he just dead, so he's dead. But if he wounded, you have to take him to the hospital, take care of him. You need to invest money in efforts. And those people without hands and eyes are living proof, walking in Lebanon, of don't mess with us. They are walking proof of our superiority all around the Middle East.
2 days after the pager attack, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, known for his fiery oratory, gave a subdued speech.
If you look at his eyes, he was defeated. He already lost the war. And his soldiers looked at him during that speech, and they saw a broken leader. And this was the tipping point of the war. I don't know if you know that Nasrallah, when we operate the beeper operation, just next to him in the bunker, several people had the beeper receiving the message. And in his own eyes, he saw them collapsing.
How do you know that?
It's a strong rumor.
In the ensuing days, the Israeli Air Force hit targets all across Lebanon, killing over 1,000, many of them civilians. On September 27th, it dropped massive bombs on Nasrallah's bunker, assassinating him. 2 months later, after more Israeli strikes over Lebanon and more civilian deaths, the war between Israel and Hezbollah ended with a ceasefire. Did you completely destroy and crush Hezbollah?
I think it's a big question, and I think the honest answer will be no. But I think after this tipping point of the beeper operation and the walkie-talkie and then IDF attack, put Hezbollah in a very, very difficult situation. No chain of command, no spirit in their soldiers, asking, begging for a ceasefire.
So you restore your sense of superiority, but what about your moral reputation? Don't you think Israel has to worry about its reputation?
Definitely, but there is a prioritization. First, you have to defend your people not being killed by the thousands. And then, the reputation.
The pagers have had a profound rippling effect, severely weakening Iran by leaving its proxy empire in ruins, with Hezbollah shattered in Lebanon, Assad toppled in Syria. We asked Agent Michael about the effect on Gaza. How does that affect the situation with Hamas?
The wind was taken out of Hezbollah's fight after the pager operation, and I'm hoping that it will have an effect also on the Hamas and hostage situation, because they're looking at their sides and they're seeing no one next to them. They're completely isolated now.
In terms of the kind of warfare that was conducted with the walkie-talkies and the pagers, would you call it a psychological war?
The day after the pagers exploded, people were afraid to turn on the air conditioners in Lebanon because they were afraid that they would explode. So there is real fear.
Was that an intention?
We want them to feel vulnerable, which they are. We can't use the pagers again because we already did that. We've already moved on to the next thing. And they'll have to keep on trying to guess what the next thing is.
Tonight, an unprecedented interview with an undercover FBI operative who secretly lives and works among the terrorists of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. His name is a national secret, but in 2012, Al-Qaeda knew him as Tamer el-Nouri. They thought he was a wealthy Arab American with seething anger at the United States. But in reality, he had dedicated himself to the war on terror the morning of 9/11.
I remember thinking, please God, don't let this be a terrorist attack. Please God. And that's how naive I was. That's how naive we all were at that time.
Tamer El-Nouri, one of his many aliases, immigrated from Egypt as a child and was raised in New Jersey in a traditional Islamic home.
We're not at war with Islam. We're at war with radicals. I am a Muslim. I am an American, and I've been serving my country for 22 years and counting. And I am appalled at what these animals are doing to my country while desecrating my religion.
Devoted to Islam and America, comfortable working alone amid killers, he was a rare find for the FBI's undercover counterterrorism group.
It's called the National Security Covert Operations Unit.
And what did the guys in the unit call it?
It's not the guys, it's me. I jokingly refer to it as the Dirty Arabs Group.
The Dirty Arabs Group. Your bosses must have loved that.
Dark humor is part of the trade. In a new book, American Radical, he writes about infiltrating terrorist groups at home and abroad. He wrote the book, he told us, so that fellow Americans could understand how the Islam he knows is tortured by terrorists trying to justify mayhem. We disguised him and changed his voice so he could tell us about one of the biggest investigations of his career. The target was a 30-year-old Tunisian who was working toward a PhD at a Canadian university. It was in 2012 that routine surveillance of Shahab Esagayer's phone calls and travels gave Canadian intelligence and the FBI reasons to worry.
Shahab was talking to some really bad folks overseas. He made 2 trips to Iran and a handful of other intelligence gathering evidence that was presented to us that led us to believe that we needed to figure out who he was.
Esagayer had a visa to attend an academic conference in the United States, so the FBI wanted Tamer El-Nouri to dangle himself as bait, just in case Esagayer was recruiting for Al-Qaeda.
What did you do then?
I crafted my legend and made myself recruitable. I wanted him to choose me. I wanted him to go to bed that night, wondering what he could do to become my friend.
His legend, or false biography, was that of a wealthy Arab-American real estate investor with a painful private grudge.
How did you meet?
We met on a flight from Houston to San Jose, California.
Not by accident.
We met on a flight from Houston to San Jose, California.
That planned accidental meeting in June 2012 is called a bump, as in bumping into someone. They boarded as strangers, and fate did the rest.
People were in his seat, people were in my seat. It was a legitimate mix-up. And as I was talking to the flight attendant, he noticed that I had a long beard, that I looked Middle Eastern, and probably was a Muslim. So he poked his head over and he said, "Batakallam Arabi," which means, "Do you speak Arabic?" in Arabic. I said, "Taban, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh." And he looked at me and he said, "Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullah." I knew it. And then the conversation proceeded in Arabic. He then turned to the other flight attendant and said, "We must sit together." He insisted. He chose me.
The whole key to the thing is to make it their idea.
That's correct.
What is the process that you go through to get into one of these roles?
It starts that morning that I'm traveling, assuming I'm traveling covertly in alias. I take a shower and I put on, for this case, I put on Tamer's clothes. I put on Tamer's watch, his shoes. I drive Tamer's car. His wallet's in my pocket. His phone is on me. And I drive to the beach, and I sit at the beach, and I talk to myself out loud like a crazy person, reciting everything there is to know about Tamer El-Nouri, his company, his family, his legend. over and over.
The FBI created a history for Tamer El-Nouri, an online presence, an actual office for his investment company where a receptionist answered the phone. There were ownership records, a home, fake IDs, and, critical to the legend, there was a false personal tragedy. El-Nouri's fake background said that his mother had died of neglect in a U.S. hospital because of anti-Muslim discrimination. That lie completed the picture of a wealthy Arab American who had a reason to hate. Shahab Essagair thought that his new friend was made to order, which of course he was. For 10 months, the men drew close. Essagair twisted the Quran to justify attacking the West. He admitted that his trips to Iran were for meetings with a senior Al-Qaeda leader. Surveillance showed that Essagair was checking Tamer El-Nouri's backstory, and one night in a basement in Toronto, El-Nouri was grilled by Essagair and 3 accomplices.
What do you do? How do you do it? Is it real? Is it commercial real estate? Is it residential? What do you do when you fly here? What do you do here? It sounded like an interrogation.
This interrogation was so sharp, El-Nouri feared that his cover had been blown. He analyzed the room in case he had to escape.
But the cop within you had figured out where the exit was and had decided what order he was going to shoot the people in the room in if it came to that.
Well, absolutely. At that point, as you get older and slower, you realize you always go for the young ones first.
Which leads me to ask, in all seriousness, where does the courage come from?
I can make the argument that you're probably more in danger crossing the street here in New York City than I am when I'm embedded in an Al-Qaeda cell. If my legend holds up, I'm worth so much more to them. Safe. They protect me more than they protect their own, because Tamer El-Nouri means access to the West.
He passed the grilling and was enlisted in what Al-Qaeda hoped would be its long, frustrated encore to 9/11.
He was planning on derailing a train from New York City to Toronto.
How was he going to do that?
Well, that changed multiple times. It was either break up the tracks, use explosives. When the bottom line was that train was getting derailed over a bridge that had as little water as possible to ensure the deaths of everyone on that train.
Was this just some kind of pipe dream?
No, that was his tasking from Al-Qaeda.
The Via Rail train carries hundreds of passengers from New York to Toronto. In September 2012, Essagair, El-Nouri, and another man cased this bridge near Toronto, the scene of the planned attack. As a surveillance team watched overhead, El-Nouri recorded Shahab Essagair explaining how the disaster would unfold.
It would seem that you have plenty to arrest Shahab on at this point. Why does the investigation keep going?
Because Shahab revealed to me that there was an American sleeper. He told me that there was an American version of him, and that although he didn't know who he was told by his trainers, Al-Qaeda senior leadership, that they would put the two of them together when the time was right.
There was an Al-Qaeda American agent inside the United States.
That's what Shahab believed, and I believed him.
The possibility of an Al-Qaeda agent in America took the investigation in a new direction. Tamer El-Nouri lured Essagair to New York City in the hope of developing leads. Essagair asked El-Nouri to show him the sights, including Times Square.
He didn't see Times Square the way a foreigner would. He saw it as an opportunity to kill Americans.
An opportunity, Essagair suggested, for a future New Year's Eve, when more than 100,000 people would fill the streets.
Multiple explosions that were timed about 5 to 10 seconds apart. As one went off, he thought about where the crowd would then run to, and that's where he wanted the next bomb to go off. Maximum carnage, maximum casualties.
He expected to get away with derailing the train so that he could go on to Times Square next.
Exactly. Shahab said that Al-Qaeda shifted gears after 9/11, they lost some of their best minds. No more martyrdom. They didn't want to lose soldiers anymore, people with access to the West. So you do what you can, get out, hide, and do it again.
After his visit to Times Square, Essegier wanted to see where the Twin Towers had fallen.
And as he was rubbing his beard and his arm was around me, he said, "Tamer, this place needs another 9/11, and we're going to give it to him." I saw red at that moment. It was the hardest time in my career to stay professional. Here I am on hallowed ground, and he said that to me. At that very moment, I could feel a pen in the pocket of my jacket. I envisioned stabbing him in the eye and dropping him dead right where he stood.
You very nearly blew your cover.
Yes, well, it's part of what we do, though. We pretend to be someone we loathe while hanging out with people we hate. Maybe it was the culmination of everything that was happening, the stress and pressure of identifying the sleeper, Shahab's rants about the West, whatever. But the point was, I almost broke that night, but thankfully for the case, I didn't.
The FBI wanted more time, but in April 2013, the Boston Marathon was attacked. And 1 week later, the Canadian government insisted on wrapping up its Al-Qaeda cell. Shahab Essegier and the accomplice on the bridge were tried, convicted, and sentenced to life. But the trail to the American sleeper, if he existed, went cold.
There hasn't been a day since April 22nd, 2013, when I've woken up, no matter where I am, that I don't think about the American sleeper.
Tamer El-Nouri's book, American Radical, was cleared for publication after an FBI review. The Bureau is keeping him out of action for a while to make sure that his identity isn't uncovered after the book and our interview.